So, we've been together for 5 years.
And we've actually been through a lot, from meeting in the Netherlands to
Surviving COVID.
which was hard, to having a long distance relationship, which was even harder, to
Living together.
and also to traveling together for 4 months around Central America. We experienced so much, and along the way learned a lot of things that helped us to be better in a relationship, but also happy in a relationship. And as we are sure that this will be valuable for a lot of people, we decided to share the 5 main things that we learned in the 5 years that we've been dating.
The first tip we have, it's quite obvious to us right now, like we couldn't do without it.
Yeah.
It's so much embedded in our relationship. And also we asked to the most happy couple we saw around us, friends, relatives, any happy couple we met, and they all got back to open communication.
And looking back to our relationship, I think at the beginning we didn't really fully open communicate. So, meaning we didn't share the true motives behind
Our actions.
and we didn't really share how we felt when we felt upset. And there was more friction and we didn't fully understand each other. But then we at some point even started, so in the last 5 years we even had moments when we had didn't happen often, but sometimes I had a little crush on somebody and you had a little crush on somebody, which I think is natural.
When you're together with somebody
it's
for
5 years,
so
you know,
long.
like it's not like you would like to end the relationship, but you have a feeling of attraction to somebody else, which is not a nice feeling. You don't really want to have it.
And you don't want to tell your partner.
Yeah.
Because you feel embarrassed of that.
And then it builds. But every single time we said, hey, Marvi, in this case, there's this girl and I have a little bit of attraction or feelings for her. And it never was a nice conversation. But just by saying it, for me at least, the feelings of attraction went away.
Yeah.
It's like this thing that builds in the secret, but once you share it, you're like, actually, I don't really feel like this anymore. But then there were moments when you had doubts about our relationship, and there were moments when I had doubts, and we also shared that. And again, it was really not the nicest conversation. But then you approached it from the perspective of as a team. It was more, okay, let's see what I maybe in a relationship can do better, or what I did wrong that you felt this way. And every single time after we communicated, maybe took some time, but we grew stronger as a couple. And also we got to know each other better. I think that's why open communication is one of the most, for me, maybe the most important thing in our relationship.
Agree.
Okay, the second thing.
So open communication is for sure super important, but there is one thing that I think everybody would struggle to admit it, and I hate to admit it myself. It is to put your ego a bit more aside on a relationship.
Can you give me an example of what that means?
Because you don't know what does it mean?
I actually don't know. Marvi
okay.
came up with the second tip.
Well, you know, like sometimes when you fight or having arguments or having discussions, you just want to be right at the end.
Especially you, actually, you know?
Especially me.
As an Italian.
No, not just that, and also my character, I guess.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to be like, for the sake of the team, my ego has to go down and I have to apologize, you know?
Okay, and how do you apply this and why is this so valuable?
Well, it is valuable because if not, you won't be with the person forever, you know? Unless you have somebody that just says yes to everything and it's not like having a real character. Like if you're with a person, you will have some discussion like, I think this is wrong, and you have to be like, I did something wrong and agree to that, no?
So it means that even if you think you are right,
Yes.
you say...
Even if you are right and you think you're right, sometimes for the sake of the relationship, you have to sacrifice.
All right, so the third one is the foundation that if you have it, you have an amazing relationship, and if you don't have it, everything falls apart. And it's the next level of open communication and putting your ego aside, and that is trust.
Like, I would be with my friends and they would ask me, what's Jacob doing tonight? And I would be like, I have no clue. Why should I know what he's doing tonight, you know? And then, I don't know, I told him the next day, oh, he went partying, I'm so happy for him. And she was like, you didn't know he went partying? With who did he went? Did he text you when you arrived home? And I'll be like, no, it would be weird if he does. No, I would be like, what happened? Did you had an accident when you were going? Like, I would be more worried if you text me. Like,
but I also have a lot of friends where there's constantly this pressure to text their partner to see where they're at and what they're doing. And I think the reason because of that is that there's a lack of trust. That on the one hand comes from openly communicating, but it also, I think open communication really builds the trust, but also sharing everything that happens, right?
Of course. And makes you more secure as a partner. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that's why you have to be brutally honest in every part of the relationship. Because, it's hard at the beginning. Maybe because of the truth, you don't fully match now and things go apart. Yeah. But without that foundation, you have a relationship that's, there's so much drama in the relationship that you would not have if you have that pillar of trust that comes from all the things we talked about so far.
And so once you give a lot of trust to your partner, it surprises you also on the positive side. Like how you surprised me for my birthday.
Learning Italian, you had no clue.
I had no clue, but if I would have been too much helicopter over you and knowing everything you were doing, I would have found out and I would have ruined my own surprise, you know? Also standing up for your boyfriend, like I trust he doesn't do nothing bad to me. It's, I think, a powerful move for our relationship, no?
Yeah. And I think those first 3 tips together, they really form the foundation of your relationship, whereas the last 2 tips are focused more on sustaining it until the end.
What's the end of a relationship?
Yeah, but sustaining it, like the first things you need to even start having a good relationship, and the last 2 is more
to keep the happiness.
To keep the happiness.
Say like this.
That's good. Yeah.
Okay, so our 4th tip is don't compare your relationship to others. Maybe this is more female oriented.
Maybe.
But
why is this important?
Well, because like on social media it's full of like either video that says if he wanted to he could have, or either you see super happy couples together, you know what I mean.
I think it's in general in social media that you see the best part of people that because they share the best part, which everybody knows. But then still we have this thing that we cherry pick. So we were like, oh, I would like to have the body of this person, the presentation skills of this person. And this couple, they whatever else, something else, and you cherry pick. And you cherry pick from social media, and you cherry pick from what you've seen in the movies. And there are a lot of times when I felt, okay, I'm really in love and I really care for this girl, but it's somehow not as pictures as in the movies, and I never really had too much the social media thing, but you had it more, right?
Yeah, but also movies can be very toxic. If you compare that your love life has to be like in the movies all the time, then you get depressed because you're like, why my life is not like this? But let's say everybody see the surface of a relationship online, but deep down a relationship is hard work. It's like you just see the tip of the iceberg and you don't see the full iceberg underneath, you know? Mm-hmm. Or when you see 2 swans swimming together, they seem so beautiful from above the water, but you don't know how much effort goes for them to swim next to each other under the water, you know?
What an analogy, wow.
Yeah.
But sometimes it can be boring. Sometimes, coming back to the open communication part, you have to talk about things that are not nice to talk about because that's how you feel, and you better address it, otherwise it grows. And coming down to the turning down your ego side, sometimes you have to not give up on what you want, but you have to take a step back and see it as a team. And all of those things can be hard and emotional and boring at times.
Annoying more than boring.
Annoying. And I think it's very toxic if you see relationships from this lens, but you have to figure out what love actually means to you versus how love has been portrayed in all the movies in the last 100 years.
Agree.
All right, on to the 5th tip. And if it was a bit confusing so far on how to implement this, like all the tips we gave before, I think that's the main one that helps you to implement it. And when I filmed the video where I was all by myself in the woods, I was actually a bit doubtful on our relationship. So I had those moments where I was not... So I didn't feel as much as was portrayed in the movies. That's something we talked about already, but I still didn't really know how to handle it. But I was reading a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And there I came across a line that really helped me. And it said that love is not a feeling, but love is a verb. It's not the feeling of love, but it's to love somebody. It means that you put the other person first, putting your ego aside. It means that you do share everything. It means that you wake them up with a kiss, even if you were upset of them the night before. It means that you do things for the other person that you do unconditionally. I think that's the biggest difference that happened. Before, it was always conditional on the feeling that I was feeling. Whereas once I focused on love as a verb that you do, I did it unconditionally and I gave, and through this felt way more love than I felt before having this perspective shift. And I think that's something that you did great from the beginning. You always had this unconditional giving, and you had less doubts because of that than I had, because I had this on this conditional feeling.
Yeah. And also what for me was like always something I kept in mind was I don't want to change this person. You know? Like, who am I to change someone? I struggle to change myself sometimes. How can I change someone? Like, I can point out, oh, maybe you should be more patient maybe in the future, but things like this. But what's my right to change someone that I don't even know if it's going to stay with me for a lifetime? We're in our 20s. I want to let him develop on his own way, you know? And this kept in mind, let's say, was another way of me to seeing this, like love as a verb and not as a feeling. Yeah. And I was all the time saying like, oh, let's love him for the way he is, you know? Yeah,
you did the unconditional part. But if you love fully all the way through, no matter how it turns out, you will have way more satisfying relationships with anyone.
Yeah, no matter how long it lasts.
Yeah. And the one thing that also really helped us, which is the book, The 5 Love Languages, that actually had a big impact. But I did make a video about that really in depth. So if that's something interesting to you, then you can check it out here. Yeah. And we really hope that this video was valuable for you and that it benefits your relationships now and also in the future.